Holden getting underneath. Maltz, great catch by Bernhardt. Score! Hello, highlight reel.
Play like a champion today. Notre Dame with its first title in men's lacrosse.
Hello, College Lacrosse Game Day fans. Welcome back for another episode of our show. This is week 8, so we bring in Tommy Bourque, a senior midfielder for BU, who just upset the number 1 team in the country last Friday, Army, at their place. We're going to talk to him as well as cover all the conferences and some big games coming up this week. We are going to introduce ourselves as well. This is a big jump, so bear with us. My name is Dan Ryan, played at Lincoln Sudbury, played at Hobart College, graduated in 2022, long stick midfielder. My favorite Omaha Steak meat is a private reserve top sirloin.
Hey everybody, my name is Brett Williams. I also played at Lincoln Sudbury. I played at St. Lawrence for 4 years, graduated in 2021. My pick from Omaha Steaks is on the dessert menu. I'm going to choose the apple fritter. It was delectable. You could toss back to Eric Holden earlier in the show. He said it was his favorite dessert he's ever had. Maybe it had 20 beers before that, but I'm going apple fritter.
My name's Hayden Fry. I played at Lincoln Sudbury with these two other guys, and then at Union College, I played offense. And my favorite Omaha Steak item is the bacon wrap filet mignon. Brett prepared it for us the other night, and it was spectacular.
Sure.
Really nice cut of meat. Comes in the 6-ounce variety, and it was just a perfect entree to cap off the night.
Nice.
It was. Nice glass of wine.
Yeah, and then my name is Michael Christensen. I went and played at Roxbury High School in New Jersey, and then did 5 years at Hobart, and played at close defense. And my favorite item from Omaha Steaks is the bone-in ribeye. It's just a whole lot of meat.
Babe splits it. Doesn't go to the empty cooker. 3 seconds left. Back behind to Cohen. Michigan on Alumni Weekend. They'll storm off the sideline. Victorious. They take down the Terps. 12-11.
Hail to the victors. Michigan in a terrific game between two really good teams.
Friday, March 22nd, the Brown Bears snatched UMass like the salmon of Capistrano, 11-10. Spencer Hughes had 4 goals.
And yet again, the nation's number 1 team goes down. A great night to BU. The Terriers knock off Army 14-9 in Boston.
Saturday, March 23rd, the Georgetown Bulldogs rolling past Richmond 14-8. That's 6 in a row.
Utah treats the Motor City Mercymen like their son in this A-Sun tilt 21-9.
They say don't throw stones, but St. John's wins a rock fight over Lemoyne 9-7.
Navy gets back over 500 by punishing the purple punching bag of the Patriot League, Holy Cross, 17-7.
Hobart hung in with Cuse in the Krause-Simmons game, but left the fish in the lake 13-7 Orange.
Sean Dow went 15 of 21 at the X to help Lehigh domesticate the Bison of Bucknell, 9-8 final.
Bryant scored 17 goals. UMass Lowell scored 2 goals.
The Sharks develop a breathing apparatus, go to Siena in a blizzard, go down 11-6 with 10 minutes left, and then they win in overtime 12-11. Owen Stefanko, the Snow Shark hero.
High Point is pointing in the right direction, beating UNC 12-11 on SportsCenter Top 10.
The Drexel Dragons are lunch for Virginia's Velociraptors with 6'4" survival of the fittest, 14-4 finish.
Michigan beat Maryland 12-11 in a big statement for Big Ten play.
Big Red are rolling, proving why they were picked to finish cursed in the Ivy League. Dan Arestia's 40-goal prediction was close. They defeat Yale 18-15.
Air Force looks supersonic on the field for Lindenwood. They fly past the Lions 15-3.
Regan Endress was 70% at the X. He was a good boy this weekend. So were the rest of the Great Danes. They beat Vermont 13-11.
Marquette breaks a losing streak and bends over the Bonnies 8-3.
After Army's loss Friday, Quinnipiac was the last undefeated team in the country. Momentarily, they beat Marist Saturday 13-10.
Brutal weather and a 2-goal second half held the Stags back from Towson 12-10.
NGIT 0-2 in the American East play after getting bingoed by Binghamton 17-12 on Saturday.
Sacred Heart in double digits over VMI. 18-10, Spencer Tucker tucked 5 for the Pios.
St. Joe's down 1 in the final minute. Anderson finds Page with 3 seconds left to tie it, and then Eccleston ends it in overtime. Canada beats Providence 13-12.
Mount's Brody Atkinson tacks on a hat trick in this one, 8-7 over Wagner.
Close your Monmouth when you're eating Seawolf. Stony Brook loses 11-6. Both teams 1-1 in CAA play.
The UMBC Retrievers were not Merrimack's best friends. They brought the Warriors to the pound, 15-9.
Lafayette Leopards lose to Loyola by a lump sum, 18-10. Matthew Minikis was the man with 9 points.
Jacksonville in a tight finish over Mercer. They flipper the script, winning 8-7.
I highly suggest you do not bring your girlfriend around Nate Kabiri. He is smooth. Princeton beats the Crimson 14-11.
Delaware may have picked the wrong bird and swallows the pride. Hens 13, Hofstra 10.
Penn's Peter Blake and Brendan Lavelle don't believe in climate change. They chop down the Big Green of Dartmouth 11-8.
Cleveland State cleans their plate with Robert Morris and wants more, 13-6.
I don't know how to play chess, but give me a knight over a queen. Bellarmine, say checkmate. 12-5 ace on win.
The Jaspers breed disaster for Canisius. Manhattan beat the Golden Griffiths 12-5.
Sunday, March 24th, the Duke defense was dominant against Denver. Kenny Brower was stout, 11-7 Blue Devils.
Which state was great? Penn. And Ohio was late. Nittany Lions over the Buckeyes, 12-9.
Coach Breck said Rutgers should have gone to his zone faster Sunday against Hopkins. I concur. 13-8 Blue Jays. Angeles, 8 points.
Monday, March 25th, the Wildcats send the Bears back into hibernation after their first win, Villanova 9, Brown 5.
The Pirates are still looking for their booty. Hampton loses to Drexel, 16-5.
Tuesday, March 26th, Yale taught Lemoyne the laws of the land. The Finns were outswam by the doggy paddle, 21-10.
Wednesday, March 27th, Tommy Coons had 15 saves for Canisius, including the game winner. In the final seconds, Golden Griffins get a MAC win over Siena, 13-12.
Jacksonville brings Cleveland State on a beachfront date. They rub it in, 18-6.
VMI love the MAC. So do the Keydets. They beat the Mount, 12-8.
Coach G is singing in the rain after being stuck in the mud with BU and Durham. The Devils sneak it out 11-10 thanks to freshman Ben Johnston.
LIU is sharking the MAC. 6 players with 3+ points, 14-8 win over Wagner.
Quinnipiac is no longer perfect. They're tainted, but I still love them. 15-12 Manhattan.
Loving lacrosse is red. Like Marist at Sacred Heart, East Coast Pioneers win 12-7.
D'Alto throws it up. Boston University gets a marquee win on their home turf. 14-9 your score as they handle the Army Black Knights. And it's a major win for the Terriers' body of work this year.
We're joined now by senior midfielder for Boston University, Tommy Bourque. Tommy, thanks for joining the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, guys.
Of course, we're fired up, and we know you're juiced for tomorrow night's game against Duke. For context, this comes out on Thursday mornings. We're recording on a Tuesday night now, so we're not going to spend too much time on this Duke game, but I got to ask, I've never flown to a game. I'm pretty sure you guys flew out of Logan this morning to get down to Durham, so I'm just curious, how's the body feel and how's the travel?
Yeah, I mean, it's a 5 a.m. wake up, so not getting much sleep. And then
Jeez.
on the plane, on the bus, and then right off the bus, we're practicing. So you got the plane legs. And so we do a lot of recovery, like hit the Normatex after to get the
I was going to
legs right.
say, the space pants.
Yeah, so there's some extra work that definitely goes into it from all that traveling.
Totally. Well, you're doing us a huge favor now, realizing it's late and you probably want to go to bed, so we'll be quick with this thing. But want to ask, I know you're thinking about Duke, obviously, but I want to ask about Friday night. You guys have done some historic things since you've been with the program, and that Friday was just another historic accomplishment. It may not have felt like that because you guys have beaten Army before, but it's a lot different when they're the number one team in the country. So just want to ask, like, what does that win mean for you guys moving forward? And if it changes anything, is it your confidence? Is it your outlook against teams like Duke or maybe even Yale later on? Just want to hear how that affects your program.
I mean, we definitely have a lot of experience with playing Army in the past, but I think when you play a team ranked number one and going out there and doing what we know we're capable of, it definitely gives us a lot of confidence going forward that we can really play with the best of the best. And that night was really special, having the opportunity to host Army, being the number one. And I mean, it's just great going forward, going to the Duke to have that confidence after beating them. It's pretty good.
Yeah, and going off of that more, you were hosting, and Dan and I had the pleasure of going to that Navy game where unfortunately you guys took the defeat. But we did witness is just a great camaraderie, great family support. Just speak a little bit on BU lacrosse and kind of how they've been supporting you from the fan base perspective.
I mean, the fans are great. They've stuck with us through ups and downs. You talk about that Navy game. We definitely didn't come out our best that day, and we had to dig really deep that following week. A lot of long conversations with the seniors and the coaches, trying to figure out what our identity was and what kind of product we want to bring on a day-to-day basis. And so after that, beating Bucknell and then going into Loyola, beating them, and just building up that confidence, and then having the fans to support us, and then a big crowd showing up for Army on Friday night. It was really special and just a lot of fun in general.
Definitely, yeah. And just to kind of touch on what you guys have done during your time at BU, you've had a historic career there. I mean, I think people sleep on how amazing what the program has done in the last few years really is. The only thing I can compare it to is what Michigan did in the Big Ten last year, winning all those games and winning the conference. But just went through some stats here. You guys are 19-4 in the Patriot League since 2022. And in any conference, that is spectacular. You guys are Patriot League champions in 2022. Some huge program wins against teams who are powerhouses like Army, Loyola. But I need to ask you, just showing up in 2021 as a freshman, does all this winning feel normal? Like, to you, it must to some extent feel like this is just what BU does.
Well, yeah, that 2021 year, we weren't in the COVID year, and things were weird all over the place. And I mean, even before that, getting recruited by BU, it was a new program, and the coaches, they sold all of us on an idea that, we're building a special thing here. We're going to be top of the Patriot League. And I think the coaches got everyone to buy in on that idea. And it kind of just came to fruition that 2022 year. We all bought in, and success has been there. So there's definitely a lot of work that could make it feel normal. But, it's just that idea that we all have bought in on.
Yeah, so just going off of buying in, we hear that a lot, from other guys on different teams. What does buying in mean for BU?
I think buying in for BU, if I had to put it, probably means just doing the most you can for the program. I'd say we have these 5 pillars that we go by that our Coach Pulley really has us live by. Family, motor, work ethic, compete, and accountability. And just trying to bring each of those aspects out in your life on a personal basis, I think is what buying in means. Yeah.
It's cool. I love that.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, you hear a lot of teams have these, we call it credo in my school, but it's certain you guys live by that, just by how much success you have had. Last question. I want to let you get some sleep before a huge game tomorrow. But for people who don't know how difficult the Patriot League is, I want you to kind of paint a picture, because I think the more, standard or not as informed lacrosse fan is maybe more excited for an ACC matchup or a Big Ten matchup in Ivy League, and maybe rightfully so. They're very talented programs. It's very high quality lacrosse, but you guys are battling every single week. It's a huge tournament at the end of the year with a lot of teams, and it's typical that only one team comes out of the Patriot League. Maybe if Army keeps this great record, they could get an at-large. It's still in contention for you guys, but just tell us about how difficult it is competing in this conference every single week.
Definitely. The Patriot League is very deep. Like, every single game in the Patriot League, you have to prepare so much, because you're going to get each team's best effort. And I think to describe each game, it's a fight. Like, both teams, very gritty players, and you're going to get the best effort from every team, and you got to go out there, and you can't let down at all, because they're going to scout you. They're going to scout you hard. They're going to be prepared, and there's really no just taking the foot off the gas in the Patriot League. It's a fight every time.
Definitely. Yeah. And I'm greedy, so I'm going to ask one more question. But you guys have a few graduate seniors who, as well as seniors this year, who are leading the team. And it's been like this in the past. You guys have had some exceptional players, some big names over the years. But just talk for 20 seconds about senior leadership and how important it is when it comes to making a run and playing teams like Army and playing the best teams in the country throughout the spring.
Yeah, I mean, senior leadership is super important because it really comes from the top down. And if us as seniors, if we don't have energy, then in practice, the scout guys aren't going to have energy, and we're not going to have a good practice, and that's going to lead to not getting the reps that we need. So us being the senior leaders and facilitating that positive and that constant energy, it's really important for us to succeed on a week by week basis.
It's awesome. It's awesome, man. Yeah, we're fired up to continue to watch you play, and as folks who live nearby. We have to be BU fans for the rest of the year.
Of course.
We'll certainly be at the Yale game coming up, and maybe some others. Hopefully, you guys host the tournament. We got to root for the future leaders of our country and Army and Navy, of course, as anyone would. But we're rooting for Boston. We're rooting for Boston too, man. So
love that.
Thanks so much for joining us, Tommy. Good luck tomorrow. Get some sleep. Look forward to catching up soon.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Tommy. Appreciate it, man.
Take care, man.
Bye.
Thanks to Tommy Bourque for the interview. Remember to like and follow the podcast. I mean, at this point in the year, do you even want to be the number one team in the nation? Like if you're like a Georgetown who's kind of like creeping up the ranks, there's not a huge difference between 12, 9, 7. Like, I don't know. I'd be allergic to number one because they keep losing.
Yeah, there is a lot of pressure, but it's...
You're put on a big spotlight once you hit number one, too. It's like the new number one team. No one says number 2 or number 3 or number 4 or number 5.
Right. College
it's number 1.
Day.
It's almost more valuable to be in the 2 to 4.
And everyone's asking the same question that Dan just asked. Are they going to lose this week? And that's a whole nother amount of pressure that you're not even thinking about the X's and O's of the game you're about to play.
Yeah, I also think like the previous number ones, like Army, and then before that, Duke and Notre Dame and Virginia, they were all unbeaten, and they were all trying to, uphold this standard of perfection, being undefeated, coming across as unbeatable. And I think Army was the last team to be that before this BU game, but now that door's kind of open. Now the pressure of being undefeated, being perfect, being unbeatable isn't the true definition of the number one spot.
Yep.
Now it's just who wins the biggest games. And I think that standard for perfection has fallen off the number one spot, so I think the pressure has lessened a little bit.
I agree.
But
I agree completely.
But I agree with you. Like, do you want to be the number one team?
Well, now it's at a point where all these teams have a loss. Even Quinnipiac has a loss. So I don't think they're going to read into the record as much anymore. I think it's going to be more of a matter of who is the best team in the country. On Memorial Day weekend, all right, let's say it's Memorial Day, Championship Monday. You got to choose Army, Virginia, Duke,
Notre Dame. I think the list is longer than that, though.
Do I have to pick the 2 people in that game? Or
who would you... Okay, if the answer is Army, then shame.
I don't think so.
It's not.
I still believe that Army is a top 3 team in the country.
Okay.
That's fair.
Who are they?
Number one.
Are they better than Virginia?
I think they're a top 10 team.
I don't think they're better.
I think they could compete with Virginia. I think that's a toss-up game.
Are they better than Maryland?
Yes.
Are they better than Duke?
I would say that they would beat Duke.
Are they better than Notre Dame?
I don't know if they could beat Notre Dame.
I don't know if they would.
I think Notre Dame and UVA are both better.
I think they could beat
But then
Duke.
if you're comparing to Duke, Cuse beat Duke, Army beat Cuse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these are all hypotheticals. And like
It's real hypotheticals.
now it's like the number one ranking doesn't even matter. Because like before...
It matters if it's cursed.
Yeah.
Matters if you don't want it.
Yeah, but now it's like... It's not like there's a clear number one, and everybody knows that. Whoever is ranked number one at the end of this week, like you can make an argument that they're not number one. You can make an argument that whoever is a number one ranked team, say it's Virginia, they could be the 5th ranked team. They could be the 6th ranked team. Like all these rankings really don't mean that much now, and like we're kind of in like the dog days of the season when, you got these gauntlets that teams are looking at in the schedules, and they just have to get through them. And the team that comes through these gauntlets in the ACC and the Big Ten and the Patriot League in the next 4 or 5 weeks, when these conference games really start picking up, will be, at the top of the rankings. But it's who can get through these next few weeks clean.
Yep. And teams are going to get hot. Like, who knows? Michigan could win a bunch more games. Huge win against Maryland.
You look at like Georgetown. Georgetown's getting hot. Freaking Penn State.
A-10 teams are getting hot.
Yeah. High Point.
High Point in St. Joe's.
Yeah, let's talk about High Point for a second. I mean, maybe the best, and I'm not exaggerating, I don't think. If I am, call me out. It's probably the best game-winning goal I've ever seen in my life. Probably the nuts on Maia to throw that pass. And
what's the movie where they're like backyard bullshit? like backyard football. It might be like Longest Yard when they're just like play like in your backyard. It looked like a backyard, like you're just messing around with your younger brother, throwing BTBs and shooting at the net. Like it's what it looked like.
Yeah, and also
it does not look like a usual like game-winning goal. It was like, geez, and it was in a settled 6v6 set. It wasn't like a fast break.
It was like he was like sweeping over the top away from the cage.
Yeah, and there was also like 25 seconds left on the game clock. Like that play is a turnover probably 80% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
More than that.
Like you're just if I was a coach, I would be so pissed if my guy did that.
Torpy.
Like yes, you got it. You gotta, say what a play, what a handle. But like, what does that say about High Point? None of us would ever throw that pass in a million years. Even if you can hit it, 9 out of 10 times, you would not throw that pass with 25 seconds to go, on the verge of having one of the biggest wins in program history. You just wouldn't do that. Like, you'd probably take it to overtime, honestly, or you would wait till there's 10 seconds and then, force something in. You just would not throw that pass.
No, and I don't think Logan Wisnauskas drew that one up. If I were to take a guess.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah. Oh,
a Tillman coached player.
He was probably looking for a mumbo on the backside to a high bouncer.
Yeah, some lefty crank.
Yeah.
Also, to correct myself, it was schoolyard bullshit. It's from the movie called The Longest Yard, where they flood the practice field and they just throw the ball around the mud, and they call that play to win the game in the real game.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
That rings a bell.
Schoolyard bullshit wins it.
That's right. Title.
I mean, yeah, unbelievable play. Unbelievable play and huge win for High Point. That was a huge win. And I think like UNC is not a top 10 team, but still an ACC team and a team that's hot right now, and huge win for High Point. It says a lot about, them and like how they're going into the A10, which is scary for the rest of the A10.
Yeah.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be one of those competitive conferences, and that's why we're doing this episode like we are, with kind of a conference breakdown instead of our classic rundown of a slate. So we'll look at every conference, look at the current rankings, some of the big games in each conference coming up, kind of give you an idea of what's going to happen for some of these teams to come out on top of these conferences. Then we'll break it down towards the end, talk about some predictions that we have in terms of winners, as well as maybe some teams that could surprise us in some of these conferences. So we'll get into all that. Next, we have our All Guts, No Glory section by Brett.
All guts, no glory, starting with Cornell beating Yale. A slugfest, as Mr. Arestia predicted. The box score was even less surprising. CJ Kurse had 8 points to Matt Brandau's 7, the two heavyweights both producing at a high level for their respective teams. Cornell had 3 more point contributors. They spread the wealth a little bit more. Yale dominated the faceoff X. Machado Rodriguez was 62% for the Bulldogs. Cornell scored 5 unanswered to start the fourth quarter. How do you come back from that? Not sure. The Big Red moved to 2-0 in Ivy play, and they have Penn next week. LIU beat Siena in overtime, a winter wonderland. In this one, the Sharks trailed 11-6 with 10 minutes left. Xander Hawk, Mark Regan, Tom Van Bargen, and Tyler David scored 4 goals to put LIU within 1. Then Sean Bull scored with 2 seconds left to send it to OT. That is a gutsy 5-goal run. Owen Stefanko, as we mentioned, won it in overtime. The bench looked like March of the Penguins sliding around the field at the end.
And I think that brings LIU to 7-1 on the season.
Oh, yes. Updated?
Quick check here. Yeah, I mean, they're on track to win the MAC. As you said in the last episode, LIU is 7-1, 4-0 in the MAC. Sorry, continue, Brett.
Excellent. Georgetown beating Richmond. Georgetown is on a 6-game win streak. We'd mentioned this team a couple times. The Bulldogs are on a mission. Now number 13 team in the country. They're building themselves a pretty good resume, as we've pointed out. Georgetown's offense has seemed super balanced visually, but they look pretty good on paper as well. We chatted a bit about key transfers last week in Georgetown's uniforms of the past. Now we have Alex Verdaro making himself stand out this week. He had 5 goals. This team has guts.
Alrighty, Brett. Thank you for that rundown. Now we have the D3 rundown of the week. We're going to keep this concise. There's a couple big games and a couple big games coming up this weekend, but there's one that tops them all. So starting today, a couple good games. Williams beat Christopher Newport today, 18-12, which is a huge win for Williams. I expect CNU to drop quite a bit after that one. They've suffered a couple bad losses, and says a lot about Williams. On Tuesday, some huge games. Bowdoin traveled to Babson and lost 13-6. I know Bowdoin's struggling with some injuries, but Babson is a great team, and that's a really big win for their program. I was actually at the Tufts Union game on Tuesday in Medford at Bellow Field. Tufts won 24-5 against Union. That was a top 10 matchup. Tough game for Union, but they bounced back this weekend with a huge game against St. Lawrence, which we'll touch on. But I was impressed with Tufts, how fast they move the ball, how quick they play in transition. They might not be the Tufts team of the past, but they certainly play like that. They play that speed, and it's just really hard to stop the momentum once they open the floodgates. So tough loss for Union, but they're going to bounce back, and I know it. I know they will. A couple other big games from the weekend. I'm not going to cover all of them, but one of the biggest scores I saw was Grove City beating York 11-9. Another huge win for Grove City. York is struggling this year. They have a losing record. They're still a top 20 team. They play arguably the toughest schedule in the country. But this is a tough loss for York. Losing to Grove City, who's an up and coming program. But now to look ahead, right? So right now, at the end of last week, the D3 rankings shifted quite a bit. RPI beat RIT, which was a huge national and Liberty League win. So they moved up to number 2 in the rankings, which is the highest in their program history.
They've never been number 2.
Yeah, no question. RIT moved back to 3 with the loss against RPI. Tufts stayed at 4, and then SLU got bumped back a spot to number 5. Unfortunate for SLU, but that's just what happens when 2 top 5 teams kind of flip-flop. There's a lot of big games coming up this weekend, a lot of big NESCAC games, a lot of big Liberty League games, a lot of other big conference matchups, but there's one that sits above the rest and holds a special place in the hearts of Brett and I. This game is Union traveling to the North Country and playing St. Lawrence, our 2 alma maters. Brett and I have been fortunate enough to have played in this game. It is always a battle. It's kind of flip-flop back and forth. Union has won some big games up there. SLU has beaten Union when they're at their best at Union, and it's really a toss-up every year and really a battle. A lot of emotions, huge crowds. 2 programs that recruit very similarly and have similar mentalities in terms of grittiness and just love for the program, as Brett and I can touch on. But this is a huge matchup because St. Lawrence is number 4. Union is ranked number 8 right now, but with that loss to Tufts, they'll probably drop a little bit.
Yep.
But this is a chance for Union to get back on track against, a St. Lawrence team that is one of the best we've seen in recent memory. So, Brett, what are your predictions for this one on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, as you said, it's always a battle. The first guys that come to mind here, obviously number 34, senior Judge Murphy. Currently, he has 50 points. He's on pace to beat the single-season point record. He's a great left-handed player, can go right, creates space for himself really well, really slick dodger. Played at Brooks Academy. Besides Judge, there's obviously a lot of depth here. Ben Hutchinson, another attackman, number 11, a senior. He's been around the block a couple times. Played really well last year. Slow start a bit for Ben, but I know him as a player. I know he gets open. He gets the spots he needs to. He's a great teammate. Also, kind of a shocker, Cam Crosdale. I believe he's a sophomore from Ohio. Comes out of nowhere, number 23, the midfielder. Right now, he has 18 points on pretty good pace, and the freshman Dan Mahoney, his youngest son, following. Just another point here is our goalie, Mr. Marinello. He's a junior. In his last 4 games, he hasn't had under 11 saves. He's been a stud, a bit rocky, but, I mean, I'll throw it back to you, Hayden. Like, what do you think? I think this is a super talented SLU team, a great Union team.
Yeah, definitely. SLU is very talented. You touched on Judge Murphy, who might be in the front running for the Liberty League Player of the Year. They have a very good goalie, Marinello, really good face-off guy in Condon, and a lot of other young guys who are assuming roles. So SLU's a very good team and have won some huge games this year against CNU and York and others. Union, on the other side, also has a great goalie in Dan Donahue and face-off guy in Matt Pilato, 2 upperclassmen who have been some of the best in the country for the past few seasons. On offense, Union is senior heavy with guys like Mike Shaw, who is having a great year, Jake Mabarty down at attack, and then Peter Kipp, who flips between attack and midfield, and then Zach Davis, who's a stud, and Justin Green, and a lot of other guys too that contribute on that offensive end. But an experienced offense that can put up goals and is used to playing in these big games. Their defense is solid as well. A little bit on the younger side and a little bit beat up right now. But regardless of who either team puts on the field and who's healthy and who shows up, this is going to go down to the wire. It's going to be a battle. There's just going to be hard-fought ground balls. There's going to be great goals, great saves. It's really an evenly matched game this year, I would say. Yeah. So, a lot on the line, especially for Union. They got to come back and reassert themselves as a top 10 team in the country. And then SLU is also playing for a lot here. They're undefeated right now, one of the few remaining undefeated teams in all of college lacrosse, defending their home turf. It's just as big of a Union SLU game as there has ever been. I would give a lot to be there, but it's a long trip up north. So, we'll leave it at that. We're going to, be following along. I'm rooting for Union. Brett's rooting for SLU. But we'll touch base next week. This is going to be a good one. So that's the D3 rundown for the week. We'll see you next week. We'll see what happens.
Alrighty. Now we are hopping into our conference breakdowns here. We're going to go through each conference, begin to talk about some of these standings, how they're shaping up. Teams are going to need to win their conference if they want a shot in the big dance. It's the reality of college lacrosse for probably 75%, maybe even more teams at the moment. So we're going to run through every single one of these conferences, tell you what you need to know this week and moving forward, starting with the American East with Brett and Hayden.
Thank you, Dan. American East. Currently, we have UMBC and Albany atop the table 2-0, and Bryant knocking on the doorstep. They're 1-1. Albany and UMBC are playing at UMBC at 12 noon. Both teams are 2-0. Following, NJIT is going to Bryant. NJIT is 0-2 in the conference. Bryant is 1-1. UMass Lowell winless, 0-2 in the conference, and they are playing Binghamton, who is 1-1. And then finally, we have Merrimack 1-1 at Vermont, who is also 1-1. I'd say that the top 4 teams, number 1 seed will host the tournament. 4 teams need to make it in order to participate. All these teams are fighting for that number 1 seed, obviously, to be playing in May. I'm thinking Albany, UMBC this weekend. What do you think for the conference?
That's definitely easy to say. Albany going to UMBC is the game to watch in the American East this weekend, as both teams are 2-0. But the American East is an interesting conference. It's one of the only 8-team conferences in the country, and the top 4 teams make the tournament. Right? a lot of conferences that you see, 6 teams make the tournament, right? It's a little bit, lower barrier for entry to the conference tournament. American East is very competitive. Like Brett said, UMBC and UAlbany are 2-0 at the top. But all the rest of these teams are fighting for that 3rd and 4th spot. And really, I could see UMBC and UAlbany falling and this becoming very competitive. The big thing with the American East is none of these teams are eligible for an at-large bid. If a team from the American East wanted to get an at-large bid, they would have to have, one loss, maybe.
Albany, I remember Albany with the Thompsons.
Yeah. I mean, that's a different story. That was probably the best American East team we've ever seen.
Yep. Easily said.
But these teams all, if they want to be playing in May, they have to win this conference tournament. The other big thing is the number 1 seed will host a tournament. So, fighting for that number 1 spot is incredibly important, and it's going to be very competitive. But fighting for that 2nd, 3rd, and 4th spot is going to be very difficult for some of these teams. So every single conference game is huge. UAlbany at UMBC is a big one to watch this weekend. I do think Albany is still the powerhouse in that conference. But the reality of this is it's still early on in the year, and these teams need to win these conference games if they want a chance at extending their season.
Yep, which is why we're talking about it. Bunch of overtime games in the first week for the American East. That'll be an exciting conference. Moving on to the MAC. These guys all played on Wednesday. MACtion, right? We're comparing this to college football. The Mid-American Conference, they play on Wednesdays. The MAC did something similar this week. They all played on Wednesday. So we actually had to update a lot of our statistics as we do record on Wednesday nights, but some good action. The standings right now, Sacred Heart and LIU are up top. They're both 4-0. In the conference. Manhattan and Quinnipiac are 3-1. They're in that kind of second place spot. And then actually 6 teams are 1-3. Wagner, VMI, Siena, Mount, Canisius, and Marist are all at the bottom. 6 teams are going to make this tournament, so 4 are going to miss it. The games this weekend, Canisius 1-3 at VMI, who's also 1-3. Siena 1-3 at Wagner, who's also 1-3. Manhattan, who just had a huge win over Quinnipiac to end their undefeated run. They're 3-1 they're 3-6 overall, 3-1 in the conference. So they are actually doing very well at Marist, who is surprisingly 1-3.
Surprisingly.
Yeah, and then Sacred Heart at LIU. This is the game of the week in the conference. Sacred Heart 4-0 in the conference. LIU also 4-0, having a great start to their year. The Mount 1-3 in the conference at Quinnipiac, who is 3-1 in the conference. Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, again, just following the American East here, it's another one that they need to win this conference to go dancing in May. It's just the way it is, and it's an uber competitive conference. It might not be the most respected, but it is an uber competitive, and it's fun to watch. As Dan mentioned, game of the week, Sacred Heart, undefeated in conference play, LIU, at LIU, undefeated in conference play. That'll be at 2 p.m. too, which is great. You can watch that one past the noon slate. But NEC... this is an NEC past and future matchup.
Yes.
Next year, the NEC is coming back. So these teams already have a history. LIU leads the series 3-2, so it's a tightly contested one. These teams already do not like each other. I think it's going to be very heated. I just know from experience, both these teams, they both play similar. They're both very loud on the sideline, and it'll be very fun, and I hope this game is also in the snow so we can get another repeat of some of those LIU sellies that we saw in that OT game.
Epic, the Snow Sharks. The Snow Sharks.
Awesome. Sacred Heart is coming off, sorry, they're just playing really good ball right now. They just handled, again, a good Marist team. They're led by 2 senior attackmen, Morgan O'Reilly and Sal Michio. LIU has won 7 in a row. After losing their season opener to Monmouth. They're led by senior attackman Sean Bowl. It's going to be a fun one to watch. I will be tuning in.
CAA talk, boys. What do we got?
CAA. So currently, Towson and Delaware are both 2-0. Monmouth also knocking at the door at 1-1. When we talk about CAA, we have the top 4 teams making the tournament again. For the games, we have Stony Brook, who is 1-1 at Towson, who is 2-0. Delaware is 2-0, playing at Hampton, who is 0-2. Monmouth 1-1 at Hofstra, who's 0-2. Drexel is 1-1 at Fairfield, who is 1-1. I'm feeling maybe Drexel at Fairfield. Hayden, what are your thoughts on CAA?
Yeah, that's this is very similar to the American East. 8-team conference, top 4 teams make the tournament. I don't think any team in this conference is going to get an at-large bid. Towson could maybe make a case for 5-3 on the year, but I highly doubt it. So again, whoever wins this, if these teams want to be playing in May, they have to win this tournament. And the thing about the CAA is like whoever makes it from the CAA usually causes some drama in the tournament. You saw Delaware a couple years ago beating Georgetown, I believe. Towson always seems to go deeper than they should when they're in the tournament. And then, teams like Drexel have won big games in the tournament. Stony Brook is a really talented team. So this is a deep conference, I'd say, in the top 7 teams, excluding Hampton. Unfortunately, they're still finding their bearings. But, whoever comes out of this, CAA is going to make some noise in the tournament. And it's, a matchup that a lot of these ACC teams and Big Ten teams and Ivy League teams don't want to see, right? If you get paired against a CAA team, you're shaking in your boots a little bit just because they are talented. They're overlooked sometimes, and they're all tough teams, all really good teams. Unfortunately, they're not a Power 3 conference, so they don't get the luxury of having that at-large bid. But these are really solid teams, and this is a very competitive conference. I do like Towson or Delaware, but I think Drexel and Fairfield are 2 teams that have surprised people this year, and that's why this game is so intriguing. Whoever wins this game will definitely be in position to get that 3rd or 4th spot.
I think it's heavy at the top. Heavy at the top meaning whoever comes out of it is probably capable of winning a tournament game. You
Absolutely.
See Drexel, remember the Caputo game against Penn a while back. Towson beating Syracuse.
They went to the Final Four
in the tournament. Yeah. Like these guys are heavy at the top. There's the heavy hitters in this conference can win games in May. Next conference here is the A-10. Mike and I got this one as Hobart alums. Just seems fitting. Some games this weekend. High Point. Also, first, none of these teams have played each other yet. High Point at St. Joe's. Great game. High Point, they beat St. Joe's in the conference tournament last year.
Mm-hmm. Upset them.
Yeah, huge upset. St. Joe's was the clear favorite to win the conference.
Yep.
High Point upset them. This is the first time they're playing since the conference tournament last year. Went to 12 Saturday. UMass at Hobart. This was a great game last year. The final game of the season for the Statesmen came up, I think, 1 goal short.
1 or 2.
1 or 2 goals short. Should be a good game. This is a good clash of culture here. UMass, a gritty team. They probably feel a certain way about Hobart, and Hobart likewise. It'll be a fun contest. And Richmond, the defending conference champion at St. Bonaventure. St. Bonaventure, the bottom of the conference. They finished last year. Have had a tough out-of-conference schedule and journey thus far. To give you an idea of what happened last year, Richmond won the conference. They beat High Point in the championship. The other 2 teams in the tournament were UMass and St. Joe's. St. Joe's was the favorite to win it. They're probably the favorite to win it again. If not, it's Richmond. Heavy at the top like the CAA, but would like to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, the best mid-major conference in the divisional landscape. Maybe not this year, but in my opinion, every year. But there are some A-10 teams going into conference play in week 1, playing some really good lacrosse, coming off some big wins. We open up this weekend, as Dan mentioned. This is a conference, though. There's not going to be an at-large. This is going to be, you need to win your conference, automatic qualifier. I do, in my personal opinion, I think where we sit right now, Richmond is the favorite with a tight contest with St. Joe's right behind him, but High Point too, right? Coming off a big win. Game of the week, as Dan mentioned, High Point at St. Joe's. There's going to be a lot of salt in the wound in this one with St. Joe's and High Point, and it's at St. Joe's on Alumni Day. As people who have played St. Joe's before, they get loud at that stadium, especially alumni. It's going to be a tough one. Yep. It's going to be a tough one for High Point. But they're both playing some really good lacrosse. As we mentioned, High Point beat UNC 12-11. St. Joe's beat Penn 12-7, and most recently beat Providence in OT. They're both playing really hot right now. For the A-10 weekly awards, they all went to High Point and St. Joe's, guys. It's an offensive firepower game. St. Joe's, just to name a couple people: Carter Page, Matt Bomir, Levi Anderson, Torrin Eccleston, High Point, Braden Maye, Jack Vanderbeek, Nick Rizzo, Tommy Meehan. These are just a couple of names that you'll be hearing all game. I think it's going to be a really high-scoring game. Both of their defenses are tied for 35th best scoring defenses in the country. I think it's just going to be who scores more points in this one.
Yep.
And then just to touch on UMass and Hobart real quick, another really good game and a really important one. There's a lot of animosity from Hobart at this one. UMass ended their season last year. That win projected UMass to get into the tournament, so it's going to be a really important one early on.
If you win 2 games in this one,
you need to win 2 games in this conference to make the tournament.
Yes. Teams are going to start doing the math very soon. ASUN, Brett and Hayden.
ASUN Air Force is 3-0 at the top with Jacksonville currently, and then there's 3 teams tied at 2-1, Bellarmine, Utah, and Cleveland State. In terms of games, we have Mercer, who's 1-2 at Robert Morris, who is also 1-2. We have Utah at Jacksonville. Utah is 2-1, and Jacksonville again is 3-0. Lindenwood is 0-3 at Bellarmine, who's 2-1. Queens is 1-2 at Detroit Mercy, who is 0-3, and Cleveland State is 2-1 at Air Force, again, who is 3-0. Hayden, how do you feel about the ASUN?
Yeah, the ASUN is a conference that doesn't excite me, I guess is the word for it. A couple good teams. I think, Utah won it last year, who was a solid team. Jacksonville has won it in years past, who's a little bit down this year. Bellarmine. How do we say? Is it Bellarmine or Bellarmine?
I think it's Bellarmine.
It's like crayon.
Bellarmine.
It's up to you.
Okay,
It's Bellarmine.
It's up to me.
I've heard both.
It's
I like
Bellarmine.
Bellarmine, but they're a team that's 2-1 right now. 6-4 on the year. They're a team that's won some tough games, but I just see whoever wins this is kind of this is what they're fighting for, right? And the ASUN championship is a big deal. You win that, it's a big deal for your program. But I just don't see any of these teams coming out in May and upsetting anybody. I think Utah is a team that could do it. But we'll see. The ASUN is a conference we're certainly going to follow, and if some of these teams start catching fire, then maybe that conversation will change. But as it stands right now, I don't see the automatic bid from this conference, making a huge impact on the tournament. I see them playing like Virginia or Duke in the first round and just losing by 50.
Probably a shoo-in for the playing game.
Yeah, I saw Rice-Eccles Stadium in Utah over the weekend.
Yeah, how was that?
It's probably going to be there. This championship game, probably going to be there.
No, so one interesting thing is being played at Air Force this year.
Oh, really?
At Falcon Stadium in, I believe it's Highlands Ranch or something.
It's Colorado.
Colorado
right?
Springs.
It's in Colorado.
Colorado
Yeah,
Springs.
no, that's Texas, but Colorado Springs.
Nice.
So, yeah, that'll be a good venue for the game. But, we're going to follow along with this conference and see if anything changes. As it stands right now, not the most exciting conference there is.
Agreed.
Moving on to the Big East, another one that's heavy at the top. Games this weekend, Marquette at St. John's. These are all noon Saturday. Marquette at St. John's, Denver at Villanova, Georgetown at Providence. Some interesting games here. These teams have not played against each other yet, but there's some really good records in this conference. Denver 6-2, Georgetown 6-2, Villanova 6-3.
Mm-hmm.
They're playing some good lacrosse. Marquette is 4-5. St. John's is a tough last team in this conference, but there's 6 teams, 4 go to the tournament, 1 comes out. There might be an at-large in this conference depending on how things shake up, but nevertheless, a lot to look forward to.
Like you mentioned, there is conversation for 2 teams in the Big East to be at large. That is Denver and that is Georgetown. Both of these teams 6-2. Just to give a little at-large picture for both of these guys, Denver, they just lost to Duke at a neutral site in Maryland, 7-11. Their other loss was to Yale, another top 10 team, and they have wins over Hopkins, Cornell, Yale, and Ohio State. That can't be right. They can't lose to Yale and beat Yale. Might have to fact check that. But Georgetown, their losses came to Loyola, which doesn't look really great right now, which how the season's turned out, and Hopkins. But they have wins over Richmond, Notre Dame, Penn, and High Point. All, especially those 2 A-10 teams, look really good at this point.
What was the want to fix a mistake?
That was for who Denver lost to.
Who Denver lost to?
I know they lost to Yale. I don't think they beat Yale. They didn't beat Yale. That's where I messed up. But
they lost.
game of the week here, Denver at Villanova. This is a 6-2 versus 6-3 team, and I already gave some information on Denver before, but where the hell did Villanova come from? Because beginning this year, they were nobody. They looked like they were going to have a down year from the way that they were playing. They started out 0-2, but those 2 losses, they were to Penn State and Yale. And they've won 6 of their last 7 games. They beat Brown 9-5 on Monday. And this is just a really good game for, if Villanova were to win this game at home, which is very doable, it would really shake up the Big East, because I feel like a lot of people right now have Denver and Georgetown pinned as the 1 and 2 seed playing in the championship.
Right. Book it. It's already
Book
over.
it, right?
They're playing the championship.
Villanova with a win here would completely shake that up, and it is more than doable. Villanova's number 4 in the nation in cost turnovers per game. They held Brown to 5, and they've held 3 other teams to single digits, including Navy as being one of them. Wow. And they're going to face a really good offense with the likes of Michael Lampert, who is a friend of the podcast, and JJ Solshop, who is another friend of the podcast. But that's an offense that only put 7 up on Duke. So maybe they're struggling right now. Who knows? But another thing to point out, Denver and Villanova, both top 10 in face-off winning percentage. Denver has graduate Alec Stathakis at 59%.
Yep.
Villanova, another grad face-off man, Justin Coppola, who's at 62%. He left the game injured their last game, and they had a freshman take over who went 5 for 5 when he was in.
Wow.
Sorry. Justin Coppola was 5 for 5, got hurt, and the freshman went in.
Okay.
I don't know if he's going to be playing this game. That's going to be something to definitely look at. But historically, Denver's 17-4 against Villanova. That is also something to think about. But I do truly believe that Villanova can have this upset at home, and it would make this conference even more fun than it's already going to be.
Yeah, imagine if they dethroned Georgetown.
Great.
Big East champs. What a story that would be instead of Denver. Patriot League, my favorite conference. I won't say that. I can't say that, but
A10, come on.
What a conference.
Currently, Colgate is unbeaten in the Patriot League. They're 3-0 at the top. BU is 3-1, and Army West Point is 3-1. Those 2 teams face each other, and BU got the best of them. Lehigh breaking in at 2-1 at the bottom. Hayden, what do you got for these games? First, we have Lehigh, who is 1-2, at Loyola, who is 1-2. Saturday, we have Colgate, who's 3-0, at Navy, who's 2-1. And Lafayette is 1-3 at Bucknell, who is 1-3. What do you got for these games?
Yeah, definitely some good games. Dan, you said that the Patriot League is your favorite conference. I might have to agree with you, especially this year. This is the deepest Patriot League I think we've seen in our lifetimes.
And I want to call out Dan Arestia, because he made a comment in last week's episode. He said, the Patriot League is like this every year, and I kind of disagree. Is Colgate winning games like this? No. Is Lafayette like this? No. Is Loyola's winning some big games too? I think it's thicker than it has ever been, and I think teams like BU lost by 1 to Duke today.
Is Army ever number 1 in the country?
No, that's what I was going to say.
Legitimately number 1. No. And BU losing by 1 to Duke, that felt normal.
Yeah.
It was like, it was a close one. It just felt like, I don't know. It's different, and I'm almost questioning where does the Patriot League stack in these conferences.
Yeah.
Sorry, Hayden. Continue.
No, I agree with you, because when you look at the Patriot League, right, it's always deep, right? You always got BU, you got Army, Navy, Loyola, who's a typical powerhouse, Lehigh is up there. So that's 5 really good teams. But now this year you add in Colgate, who's 3-0 in the Patriot League. You add in Bucknell and Lafayette, 2 teams who have won some big games. Right, that's like 7 teams you're looking at that are all very competent. So, I'm just like looking at these standings, and there's so many different scenarios playing out in my head, right? Colgate's 3-0. I don't think they're going to go unbeaten in the Patriot League. They still got to play Army, BU. Like they've had an easy first couple games in the Patriot League. But, I'm looking at it like, you could make a case that Army and BU are the 2 best teams, which they probably are. Right, if BU plays Army in the championship and they beat Army is definitely going to get an at-large bid.
You think they beat them twice, though?
Yeah. If Army ends the season with 2 losses, both to BU, they are probably getting an at-large bid. Does anybody disagree with that?
2 losses. Wait.
Army.
2 losses to Army.
And then
No, I'm saying if Army has 2 losses, both to BU, right, they win the rest of the games and lose to BU in the championship. they will probably get an at-large bid.
Yes.
Okay. Now let's say BU wins out the rest of their games, and they lose in the championship to Army. Do they get an at-large bid?
BU has 3 losses.
Yes.
They're not getting it.
But they would have 4 losses at the end of the year.
With a win over Army.
Yep.
A win over
Navy. No, they lost to Navy.
They did.
No.
No, you don't think so?
No.
They beat
Colgate.
Brown. They beat some other big games.
They have to compete with ACC and Ivy teams.
So their
So
biggest win, St. Joe's is a good win. They beat St. Joe's week 1.
especially if St. Joe's wins the A10, like there's so many different possibilities that could end up here, and like with the conference, the top 6 teams make the tournament. Dan's shaking his head; he doesn't think BU would get an at-large bid.
Army would be by far their best win, and after that, it's not close. Loyola,
Which is not aging well.
St. Joe's. I mean, if they win out, we're assuming they beat Yale. So
like
in that case, maybe.
That's a possibility.
Yes.
But just a very interesting conference. Top 6 teams make it. So the bottom 3 right now who are currently out are Bucknell, Lafayette, and Holy Cross. Bucknell and Lafayette play this weekend, so that's going to be a big game. Whoever gets that second win is definitely going to move up a little bit. Like we could see a Patriot League where Loyola doesn't make the conference tournament, which is crazy, like absolutely crazy. So yeah, this conference is deep. It's
that'd be awesome.
It's just untelling of what's going to happen. I do think Army's gonna come out of it, but like, don't be surprised if BU or Lehigh or Loyola even come out of it. Like all teams that can play with anybody. So, big weekend this weekend, but I love watching this conference.
It's going to be a fight just to get in it. We'll see what happens there. Before we move into our big 3 conferences, Ivy, Big Ten, and ACC, a reminder to like and follow the podcast, please. Ivy League. Me and Mike got this one. Mm-hmm. A great league. Rankings right now. There's been a few games. Penn and Cornell are at the top. They're both 2-0. Princeton and Yale are both 1-1. Dartmouth, Brown, and Harvard are winless. Dartmouth 0-1, Brown 0-1. Harvard is 0-2 after a tremendous start outside of that. The games this weekend, Yale at Brown. That's a good one. That's at 2 on Saturday. Cornell at Penn. That one's at 1 o'clock. Dartmouth at Princeton, 12 p.m. Saturday. Then Virginia is actually at Harvard in our backyard. We will be on the road coaching, so we're going to miss that one. But a phenomenal out-of-conference game for the Crimson. What do you think here, Mike?
I'll also just say another conference that has a lot of at-large potential, but again, tough. But now they're playing a bunch of teams, other teams that have at-large potential, so it's all about how you do in conference play. It's safe to say Dartmouth and Brown are out of at-large, but then you look at the top of this conference, Penn, Cornell, Princeton, Yale, those are 4, and you're not even talking about Harvard yet, who have at-large potential. Yep. So we'll see how that goes. We'll continue to talk about that with this conference, but game of the week, easy one here, Cornell at Penn, both teams 2-0 in the Ivy. Cornell all-time is 47-19 over Penn. Do you know that, Hayden? I didn't know that. But since Cornell got smacked by Penn State, they've had 2 really big conference wins, 15-14 thriller over Princeton and an 18-15 win over Yale. Penn, after a loss to St. Joe's 12-7, had a bounce-back win against the Big Green in another blizzard game. That was really cool. Won 11-8. I was cozy sitting on my couch watching that one. This game, it's going to come down to Penn's defense stopping what has been a high-powered, well-oiled machine, the Cornell Big Red offense, these past couple weeks. But Cornell's defense, has just not been the same as they were a year ago after a loss of Adler.
And Chase Erlin.
And Chase Erlin, who's been playing really well for Hopkins. Cornell has the number 2 scoring offense at 16 goals per game at the moment. Penn has the number 15 scoring defense, allowing 9 goals per game. It's going to be a really big matchup in this game. 2 projected PLL draft picks, both on the tour and watch list. Senior defenseman Brendan Lavelle, 12 CTs, 32 GBs on the year. He's probably best known this year for his dominant performance on Brendan O'Neill. And then, of course, you got to talk about senior attackman CJ Kirst, who can be unstoppable when he's playing at his best. And I think the kind of X factor in this game is senior goalie on Penn, Emmett Carroll. number 4 in the country in save percentage at 59%. He's also the backbone of this defense. I think if he stands on his head, he could make this a win for Penn. I do think that Cornell is going to come out on top. That's just my guess. But another fun one to tune into briefly here. UVA at Harvard. Really cool game. Got to pay for parking and a ticket. So you're paying $25+ before you're even at the stadium, or inside the stadium, my apologies, which is a red flag and a bad look on the Ivy League. But hey, good lacrosse. I'm looking forward to this one. 2 elite tackmen going at it. Connor Schellenberger for UVA and Sam King for Harvard. Definitely a fun one to watch. It looks like it's going to be 50 and sunny as well. So
Beautiful.
Probably a zoo.
Probably sold out.
I think UVA is going to take it, but you never know.
Yeah, and the Penn's 6-3 in the Ivy League. Or sorry, 6-3 overall. So watch out for them. Also, 2 years ago, there were teams, I don't know who it was, but teams not in the Ivy League tournament actually got an at-large bid.
Yes.
We're
We're like a couple years removed of like the Ivy League being arguably the best conference in the country over the ACC, over the Big Ten.
Isn't that crazy? You don't make your conference tournament, you get an at-large bid.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember like 2 years ago?
Yes.
5 ACC teams made it. Remember Harvard made it in. They were the last one in over Notre Dame. Is that what did I say?
Yeah, ACC.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
ACC backs it.
Yeah, like 5 Ivy League teams.
Yes.
Same year.
Made it in. There was like all that shit about Harvard getting in over Notre Dame because on the selection committee.
Just to ease your
was a
mind,
Harvard lady.
it's not going to be this year. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You never know.
UNC won't, I don't think, but the other ACC teams are going to make it.
Mike and I knew someone who was on the committee.
Mm-hmm.
We can't say who, but he said they did this thing where they would they covered the team name and then they had like stats on the teams of like top 20 wins, their RPI, all these different points and data points on the teams and their quality of their wins, blah, blah, blah. And they covered the team name and just had those statistics, and they created brackets with that information. And every single time they did it, it was 5 Ivies. There was like 1 ACC team. I think it was like Virginia who was in it that year. Maybe 2. I forget how many made it, but
had to be 2.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's
crazy.
Did Duke make it that year?
I don't know.
No, they didn't.
I don't think they did.
Duke and Notre Dame.
Duke and Notre Dame did not make it that year.
No, neither did UNC. They were kind of expected to not make it, but Duke and Notre Dame literally played each other at the end of the year, and it was like, who wins this game is going to be in the tournament.
Yeah.
I forget who won.
That was hype.
Regardless.
Notre Dame, they were regular season ACC champions. This is a good transition to not the ACC, but
the
to
Big Ten. The Big Ten, yeah. So
Another great conference.
So the Big Ten split in 2 right now. Penn State, Hopkins, and Michigan are all 1-0. Rutgers, Maryland, and Ohio State are 0-1. In terms of games, we have Michigan at Hopkins, Ohio State at Rutgers, and Maryland at Penn State. Hayden, what do we got? I feel like it's the last one. But
Yeah. Obviously huge games, but just a touch on the conference. There's 2 things that piss me off about the Big Ten tournament. One is that every team makes it. There's 6 teams in the tournament. All 6 teams make the tournament.
Are you serious?
The first 2 teams get a bye, which is big, but every team makes it. Right? Which is annoying because you don't really have to win the Big Ten games. It doesn't really mean as much in the regular season. But I think it is good for the Big Ten tournament because there are some great games. But the second thing I hate about the Big Ten tournament is it's all on Big Ten Plus, every single game. So like these great games,
we're good.
But what I love about the Big Ten,
I've not been on Big Ten Network. I think you can only use it on your phone. Like you can only use it. I've never watched a Big Ten game this year.
I don't think I've been on it either. I asked you one time, but I didn't. Also, Joe Beninati will be calling the games, will he not?
Yeah. So probably, yeah.
Okay, that makes it a little.
That makes it better. So, the point is like, whatever happens in these Big Ten games right now doesn't really mean a whole lot. Obviously, it means something for at large. Because there's definitely going to be an at large team. Who gets a bid from this conference. I'd be willing to bet that, whoever the 2 teams in the championship are, whoever the loser of that championship is, will get an at-large bid. So, these conference games don't mean as much, but for teams like Michigan, Hopkins, Penn State, Maryland even, these games do mean something for at-large, but not necessarily for the Big Ten tournament. But like Brett mentioned, some big games this weekend in Michigan and Hopkins and Ohio State and Rutgers, but the biggest one is Maryland at Penn State on Sunday. This would be a game of the week if we were still doing that. But, Maryland is a team that needs to get back on track and, has lost, last week to Michigan, which was a tough loss for them. But, throughout the whole year, has struggled against top teams. And Penn State is a top team right now. They are as hot as ever. They're on a 7-game win streak. Since dropping that fluke to Colgate, right? They've looked like that championship weekend team from last year. So, I don't know what's going to happen in this conference. If you're not a 1 or 2 seed, you're playing a really good team. If we were to start the conference tournament tomorrow, Penn State and Hopkins would get the byes, and then Michigan would have to play Ohio State, and Maryland would have to beat Rutgers, right? Really good conference game. So, yes, you want the 1 and 2 seed. That's big just to get the bye, and also for the home field advantage. But, we're more concerned here about the at-large, complications than the Big Ten tournament itself.
If you're a 5th or a 6th seed, you win 2. You're a 5th or a 6th seed. That means you get 3 more games left.
Yeah,
and you can get 2 great wins before
exactly
the championship on your resume.
If
you
you're
beat Maryland and fucking I don't know.
Yeah,
Penn State.
I'm looking at a team like Rutgers, who's 6-3. A couple big wins, not any great wins, but if they come in as a 6th seed in the Big Ten tournament, maybe they make a case for themselves. They beat a team like Maryland, and then they beat Penn State, and then they have to beat Hopkins. I don't know. It's really hard to do, and that 1 and 2 seed is important, but
it's unlikely.
That's why it's designed like that. That's why you want buys.
Yeah. That's why you want buys. But, we'll keep an eye on it. Obviously, a great tournament. More interested to see who's going to be the at-large bid from this conference.
Yeah, that's why they're the only conference that has all teams make the tournament. Pretty crazy. ACC, not a lot going on this week. Some teams played this past week. Some good games, nonetheless. Army at UNC. This is at noon on Saturday. It's a good game. I don't know. I think Army is going to win, but I do think it's a good game. Virginia at Harvard, as we mentioned earlier, noon at Saturday. BU just lost by 1 to Duke, as we were talking about a little bit earlier. Duke has the weekend off. They're going to come back next week. Syracuse is at Notre Dame. These two open up ACC. Actually, Syracuse already played a game. Syracuse at Notre Dame, 2 p.m. on Saturday. Syracuse and Duke are the only 2 programs to play an ACC game yet this year. Duke 0-1, Syracuse 1-0. There is a conference tournament, but there is no there is no automatic qualifier from this conference.
It is the at-large king conference because it's the only way you're making the tournament. And this year, I think we're shifting back to the ACC. I believe pretty strongly 4 teams are going to make the at-large, UNC being the outlier. Just to put some wins into perspective, let's start with Notre Dame. Notre Dame beats Michigan, Ohio State, and Maryland. Their only loss is to Georgetown. UVA, they beat Maryland, Michigan, Ohio State, and Richmond, and their losses are to Hopkins. Cuse beat Hopkins, Duke, Delaware, High Point, and their losses are to Army and Maryland. And Duke's wins are Princeton, Richmond, and Denver, with losses to Penn and Cuse. Those are already great resumes, and this is before they play each other, which are huge resume-building games. And the ACC plays a lot of out-of-conference type games. For example, UNC with Army, UVA at Harvard, because their conference is so small, and they just play a lot of games, these ACC teams. But game of the week, Cuse at Notre Dame. It's going to be a really fun one. Can Cuse go 2-0 in conference play after it felt like at the beginning of the year they were losing those big games at the beginning, and now you look at Cuse and you're just like, this team is unbelievable and they're playing some really good lacrosse. Notre Dame had 3 big wins since their upset loss to Georgetown, which has aged really well. Georgetown's been playing unreal lacrosse, but there are some great matchups in this game. It's definitely a clash of talent that I believe there will be a lot of highlight reel type goals and plays. For the adjusted efficiency scale that came out, Inside Lacrosse posted it. Notre Dame is number 1 in adjusted offensive efficiency and number 4 in defensive. Cuse is number 5 on the offensive side and number 6 on defense. It's going to come down to the mastermind himself for Cuse, John O'Dearna, and if they can slow down the Kavanaughs, Jake Taylor, Devin McLean, just to name a few, with all the other guys they have. Will Mark needs to stand on his head for Cuse. He has been recently. He's number 7 in the country in save percentage at 57%. And then
I want to call out Billy Dwan, too.
Billy Dwan?
Yeah. Syracuse defender, close guy. He scored, I think.
I have them on the next bullet. Riley Ferreras and Billy Dwan at close taking on the Kavanaugh matchups. Really important. Those are going to be huge in that game. And then Notre Dame, Liam Entenmann, 14 in the country with a 55% save percentage. And their freshman defenseman from New Jersey, great state, rookie, Sean Light, he's kind of been emerging as their cover guy. They do have the graduate defenseman, Holy Cross transfer, who plays a big role for them as well. But I think that Sean Light's going to be on Spallina, and I think that's going to be a really, really fun physical matchup. He's a physical, big guy for a freshman, and obviously Spallina is really good at getting to 5-5 as a sophomore, even for his size. So that's going to be a really fun one. And this matchup's 10-10 all time, very even with Cuse and Notre Dame. So watch out for that one. I think Notre Dame's going to take it, but really could go either way.
If you had to guess the spread in this game, what would it be?
If I had to guess the spread in this game, it's probably like 1.5.
Very close.
2.5. Notre Dame.
2?
Really?
Yeah.
Notre Dame 2-goal favorites in this one.
Oof. That makes me want to take Cuse.
I'm looking at all these spreads now, and
Cuse was 2, but Notre Dame winning.
yeah. Now I'm just staring at all these spreads.
I like it a lot.
Yeah, and one thing, just talking about spreads, we'll get our picks of the week out this week.
Yes. Yes.
You know, we felt bad. We took a week off because
we needed it.
We dropped the ball a little bit, and lo and behold, Mike went 4 for 4 on our internal picks of the week.
I did.
Yeah.
I made
some money.
I made some money.
Sorry for keeping that private, but this week will be different.
We didn't want you guys to lose money. We wanted to test it on ourselves and see if we could do this thing.
It was
we
a science
could do this
experiment.
Thing.
It was a heat check for us to see if we really know what we're talking about, and we do.
Now we know we can feed your families. Okay? All right.
Okay.
Last question here. You got to give me one mid-major team that you think could make the conference tournament and win a game. And when I say mid-major, I'm also excluding Patriot and Big East.
Are you saying you're making the national tournament?
Yep.
You're excluding the Patriot League of Big East?
Yep, excluding them.
Damn, I wish A10 was in that. Well, A10, that's a shout. That's a shot at you guys.
It's a big shot. Who can make the dance and win a game?
I mean, I think the winner of the A10 can.
So who?
I think Richmond, St. Joe's, or High Point could. I mean,
maybe High Point or St. Joe's.
High Point just beat UNC. Richmond has gotten some close games. They went to OT with Maryland. They had a tight game with UVA. And then St. Joe's just beat Penn. Those are all teams that will and can be in the tournament that were beat earlier in the year.
So. I like that. I like that pick.
That's your pick, Aiden. Brad, I'm going to ask you to get ready.
I'm just going to go back historical trends, the CAA. I like Towson this year. I've been watching them all year. I think they're a team that could win the CAA. If they can make it out of there, I think they have the weapons to beat a pretty highly ranked team. If it's not Towson out of the CAA, I like Delaware, and I also like Drexel. All teams that have done it before, but I'm going to take Towson. I think they're a team that could win a
We're going by conference, me and you.
We are.
We're like winner of this conference.
Yeah, they're just saying.
But it's true, you know.
Yeah, I'd piggyback off of both of those. I feel pretty good about High Point. I feel like they're honestly at the point where they were defining themselves, but I think another couple big wins could really could give them a shot to get in the mix there. I also like Drexel too. I was going to say that before Hayden spoke on it. They've been there before. I feel like they're just a gritty team. I feel like they have solid representation offensively, but I like one of those two teams, Dan.
Dan.
Yeah, what do you got?
Microphone's on you, buddy.
I'm going to go American East. And I love how competitive this conference is. Like multiple overtime games in 1 week. I just think it's like you watch those games and the finish and just the highlights, and it's like, I mean, we're watching whatever's on TV that weekend. We're watching, the Ivy League games, the ACC games. I watch the highlights of these, and I'm like, I would love to be at Binghamton for this Merrimack-Binghamton game. That looks awesome because it's competitive. It's high-quality lacrosse. So my pick is Merrimack. I think they make the dance.
Merrimack.
Really?
I think they win the American East. They make the dance, and they have a huge upset. They're going to play some Northeast team in the first round because that's what they do. They're going to seed them. However, they can make the travel short to save some bucks in the
Play
NCAA.
Harvard.
Bucks.
Yeah. No, Harvard's not going to make the dance. Harvard's done.
That'd be huge for their program.
Dude,
They jumped up from
man.
D2 what? 3 years ago, 4 years
And
ago.
they won championships there. They won multiple D2 championships. They've
Max.
3 or 4.
They've won
Max.
big game. Their coach has experience winning big games. I was recruited there, so was Hayden, and I remember, they say, "Hey, we're gonna, this place is gonna change. We're gonna go play D1." And you're like, "Yeah, right, whatever." And they're playing D1, and they're
Doing well,
competitive,
too.
and they're doing well.
Can I just say that for all the fun and all the flair and all the good high level lacrosse that the big three conferences have, I truly believe, going off what you said, that those mid-major conference games are just so enjoyable to watch. It is high level and it is uber competitive.
Right, and it's more. It is very competitive because it's not like a. There's just something about like when a lower tier team plays some, they're kids for NJIT playing, you name it, like team they've watched on TV their whole lives. It's just kind of like it's not gonna look the same. These teams have different resources. They recruit differently. They're competing in different ballparks. But then when you put teams playing against each other who recruit from the same schools, recruit the same kids, who have the same resources, the same rules around what they're allowed to do, it gets very competitive, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah, that's a good point. We got to go to a Merrimack game.
Yeah.
I think
I'd
we
love
should.
it.
It's too
I'd love
easy
it.
for us. It's
Show 'em
40
some
minutes
respect.
up the street.
Absolutely.
Right. And it's a great conference. It's a great conference. Thank you guys. That's enough for us today, but make sure you like and follow the podcast. It's huge for us. But open to feedback, whatever you guys think we should be doing. But we're excited for another great week of the Medicine Game. Thanks so much.
Holden getting underneath. Maltz. Great catch by Bernhardt. Score! Hello, high